So we're going to do a fireside chat, and a lot of us, we work in the industry, and we often look for two things, like where is like what are corporations thinking, what's happening in innovation, and there are a lot of questions that come up, not just from how we work with technology, but really understanding where it came from and where it's going and what's really actually making sense. So Dr. Adnan has been involved in academia for a very long time. I'm really pleased to have him here, actually on a very short notice as well. But in my interactions with Dr. Adnan, we've really understood a lot more of what happens behind the scenes. Dr. Adnan comes from an AI background, so there is a lot more realistic value in terms of where he's seeing data making a big difference in the way AI is evolving today and how important it is. So I thought maybe having a conversation around those topics would actually give us a little bit more perspective, maybe a little bit different, maybe have us think very differently as well. And Wemo, he's an extraordinaire. So if you get to know him, you will actually not regret for the rest of your life. He's such a fantastic person. But really getting a real life insight into how the technology is evolving, how the startup culture is adopting this, how we actually making a difference in this space. And I think those are things that we really thought maybe having both of you come in, talk to us and be our lead panelists. And to guide the conversation, we have Amar. And Amar leads, he's a technologist. He leads the solution architecture function here in New York for all the financial services customers. And those customers are global. So it's not that he is only focused in New York, but he has a pretty good insight into how FSI and GFS is actually evolving. So he's helped us kind of moderate the session. So please grab a seat and we will start.
Thanks, Tej. He's already welcomed both Waymo and Adnan, but why don't Adnan and Waymo take a few seconds or a minute to introduce yourselves and tell us about what you've been working on most recently. What do you think is most exciting in this iceberg space?
I'm Waymo, CEO and the co-founder of PuppyGraph. Before that, I worked at Telegraph, a graph database company, and also Google F1 team, the unified SQL query engine inside Google. So actually, we founded PuppyGraph because of Iceberg. Yeah, since after I read the news, the Iceberg team left Netflix to create a company called Tabular. We immediately reached out to them and show them how to run a graph query on top of Iceberg without do any change of the data. At the same time, the performance is much better than most graph database in the market. It's a big surprise for them as well. So we worked together for a long time to build this. Yes.
That's awesome. Thanks, Waymo. And Adnan?
Sure. My name is Adnan. I run the AI and machine learning group at a digital services company called UST. Glad to be here and seeing the community grow. Iceberg community, amazing. My first time here in an Iceberg meetup. I'm also a Microsoft regional director, and I lead the hyperscaler AI strategy for various companies. And it really helps to understand the AI ecosystem and how it comes. A lot of things come from academia. So I was a visiting scholar at the Stanford AI Lab, and I work with Yuri Leskovich for graph neural networks. And it's amazing to see how graph neural networks has evolved, and now with PuppyGraph, the things they are doing. So I'm really glad to be here and would love to talk to you more about how we are seeing the evolution of every new agentic AIs, and every time a new term comes down around this, like it's just now for how AI is being applied within industry, in financial services and healthcare, in retail, and what I'm seeing in the industry.
Awesome. Thanks. Adnan, let me start off with the first question for you. Now that you mentioned the AI, what are the things that you are seeing are kind of gaps for Iceberg to lend itself for AI or LLM and Gen AI adoption? What are the trends you're seeing? And what do you think needs to happen so that it becomes more and more dominant?
I think a lot of those gaps were actually addressed in the V3 specs, if you are probably following that already as a part of the community. So let's talk about where it is actually getting used. So a couple of use cases comes to mind. A recent implementation for our large financial services provider in a fraud detection space. So I work more on the model side of it, or the fine tuning of the models and making sure the outlier analysis, anomaly detection, the F1 scores, and accuracy and precision and recall aspect of it. But at the most critical thing around that, all of that, is the data, like where it is coming from and how we do the snapshots. So one of the key features which I fall in love with Iceberg is essentially this snapshot and being able to do the time travel. That really, really helps you to be able to identify what your models are actually have that footprint when they're finding out that anomaly, what data set they were looking at, and then going back to it and being able to tell the auditors and compliance people that this is why we were able to do that. And I think this will expand further as with responsible AI. As like from a responsible AI perspective, you need to understand if a decision was made, what were the data set, what was the data set used to do that, and that will definitely be one of the key use cases. And I think graphs for an inference perspective and to be able to understand the directionality of the decision, there will be a very important role. They will play an important role.
What are your comments, Waymo?
Yeah,
And what are you seeing with?
I think the Iceberg makes the AI about data easier. Since before that, when I was a Telegraph, and only Bank of America and JP Morgan can afford the graph database. Since anti-money laundering team have set up a graph database instance, and anti-fraud team have another cluster of instance, and the hardware cost and the maintenance cost are both very high. But now you can just put everything in Iceberg. Different teams use it in different ways, but only one maintenance, and also thanks to the S3 team, AWS S3 team, the cost is super low. So I think it's amazing to make AI adopted more faster.
Cool. Thanks. And Adnan, you already mentioned like fraud analytics and financial services, but we're in New York. So what are I mean, we have to talk about financial services, and also because I support financial services. But what are the big trends or use cases that you were seeing are becoming dominant that people have struggled with in the past and has been simplified or potentially accelerated with Iceberg adoption?
I think no session goes without saying agentic AI. You have to say that. That's mandatory. And you also talk about RAG and chatbots.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. So, I mean, there are, of course, low-hanging fruits around anomaly detection, outlier analysis, fraud detection. But one of the key things which I think Iceberg really shined in an implementation we did recently for a financial institution was around the standard operating procedures. So they have tons of SOPs laying around, and they wanted to have that data set being ingested over. And it's a typical RAG implementation, and where you would imagine the graph data, the vector databases to be one of the shining star and doing everything. But incidentally, they also have a huge audit requirement to figure out if a response for the standard operating procedure has been provided. What is the citation and attribution for that? And that's where Iceberg really, really helps. So having that a snapshot in time and be able to, when the response is given back with the attribution and citation, the SOPs get updated, your vector data and embeddings will get updated, but that snapshot stays. And that's how you're able to correlate back to say, okay, this response was given based on that snapshot, and this was the information we got in. So I think there's like really a great room for these kinds of implementations, especially when we think about RAG and we think about the embedding models or large language models. We don't really think about the underlying database which gets used to answer those questions. And that's where I think Iceberg really works well.
Great. So a lot of it is the value of being able to trace and being in compliance when there are events and incidences or regulatory requirements, etc.
Sure, and also like to limit hallucination as a part of the RLHF component of it, the reinforcement learning with human feedback. If you need to provide that, how would you bring it in from the source document perspective? Yeah. And that's where it really helps.
That's great. Waymo, are you seeing any financial services use case that you want to share with us?
Yes, Coinbase is our first paying customer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have super large data. They have a snapshot, or not only one snapshot, have a different snapshot for all the blockchain data on the internet. And then they do the anti-fraud and the compliance on that scale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think only data lake can afford it. Otherwise, it's super hard. And at the same time, I think Iceberg kind of let people have a new way to dealing with the data engineer. Because that at the beginning, usually in traditional way, usually you have the use case first, and then decide which data to store in which format. But now, I think we can no-brainer just put all data in Iceberg format on S3 first, because the cost is very low, and then we can think about how to use the data.
Yeah. Yeah, true. So no modeling, nothing. That's pretty cool. I know our first session was around clustering versus partitioning. So specifically with your clients with the graph space, what have you observed in terms of which patterns are moving the needle, which is more dominant, pros, cons? What have your observations been?
Yeah, I think the partition and the clustering is very helpful. And since some of customer want to have a request that they have a certain cache strategy, and we help them to, for example, cache only 7 days data, and all the other data just live in Iceberg at all. In this case, when user only access the latest data, it will be in sub-second, even faster.
Yeah.
When they access data like last year, is a kind of cache miss, and then it will be single-digit latency.
Yeah.
But people like it because the cost is low. Yeah, I think we can, because the partitioning and the clustering of Iceberg itself, we can do a lot of things on leverage the feature and have a different strategy.
Cool. I have another question. How are we doing on time? Yeah. What, for you, Adnan, what upcoming Iceberg features do you think will matter most for LLM, agentic AI, etc., in the next 6 to 12 months?
So there are several features coming up, and the gentleman this afternoon spoke about the clustering features. I think that was a great talk.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and rewatch it from a clustering perspective. One of the great features I think is that the deletion vectors in V3. So deletion vectors essentially is tagging the rows and then saying that, okay, this is now no longer valid. So deletion like a soft delete. I think that's a great feature. So that will really help in a lot of different implementations, whether it's around agentic AI for thresholds monitoring. So you have essentially thresholds around different areas, and then you can have that soft marking of deletions with vectors, and then still be able to move forward and still have the traceability available for that. I think that's one of the great features I'm excited about. Lineage, of course, is getting improved in V3, and that would really help in the model drift and keeping that traceability aspect of the model governance in place. Yeah.
Cool. Waymo, in your opinion, what are the features that you think are going to be most exciting?
Yeah, we are waiting for the material view. Yeah, since we have a flexible graph modeling tool for different table formats, but we're trying to let our user leverage the Iceberg as much as possible rather than use PuppyGraph to do the graph modeling. So if you have a material view, they can normalize, denormalize, or have a more flexible design. Even for same data, they can use in different ways. So if that feature can be released, it will be very convenient for our customer.
Right, and that would have an impact on performance or price or both?
Yeah, it's more like I think most important the flexibility. Yeah, but of course the performance and the cost also can have benefits.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything which can help the evaluation of PuppyGraph, right?
Was there a question from the audience? No. So a question for you, Waymo, is, in your opinion, what has been the most difficult problem you've solved with the Puppy Graph solution?
Oh, I think currently we want have more Iceberg vendors, since sometimes when we engage with our customer, we need to work all together to optimize the Iceberg tables. And but luckily now we have, for example, S3 tables as a managed service, and then if people migrate to that, then our life will be easier.
Sorry, if people migrate to that?
To S3 tables or other managed service, our life will be much easier.
Much easier, definitely. I think we have a session on S3 tables also later on.
Yeah, and the earlier implementation I was talking about, the heavy lifting is done by S3 tables. So you're essentially storing it, it's cost effective, and then you just have the delta available as part of the VV8 or any FIS or even the PG vector. Also lives in AWS, and that gives you really good cost-effective solutions, especially for larger scale implementations when you have millions of people consuming that information from LLMs.
Right. Do you also see, I know we have a few seconds left, do you also see people offloading vector data into Iceberg tables and then using that back and forth with the vector engines?
Not in the exact, I guess in essence they are for the currentness, the keeping it fresh. So yeah, that is happening. But the source of the truth for keeping the vector database has been that for attribution and citation and everything else, that's where it goes for the first lookup, and then for traceability, it goes to the later offloaded databases. Yeah,
makes sense. Thanks. I think we're running out of time. Are there any questions? We can take one. There's one in the back.
Hello, thank you. This is great. I'm Ruth. I work at Fiserv in FinTech and payments, and I'm super interested in the synthetic data, agentic AI piece that you were highlighting as relates to what are the gaps that you think some of the things that we'll be dealing with could be addressed with it, particularly when it's highly regulated data, PII, aggregated, anonymized. Those are the challenges that I'm thinking about. So it'd be good to get your perspective.
So since we have 10 seconds, actually we're over time. RBAC is a challenge, right? So having a continuous RBAC flowing through the credentialing across, then how you can do differential privacy in a meaningful manner across the entire stack for PII and protection around this. And also the synthetic data, which is representative, a creation of that. It's not just randomized, but it's actually representative sample of that, and stratification of that data across the spectrum for each one of these use cases. Those are some of the challenges I've been working on. Those are interesting areas.
Actually, when I was at Google, I do some similar job, and since I work at the SQL Query Engine team, and I think if we can centralize all the data in Iceberg, the benefits for the PII and the privacy will be much easier. Otherwise, each team need to manage it by themselves. But now you can centralize and manage it, and based on our rule-based access, and different people have a different access. And then for the whole company, you can have more clear management about this.
Thank you for the question. And we are over time, so I want to thank both Adnan and Waymo. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next.
Thank you.